Okay, everybody, how are you doing? It is Sunday night on September 13th. I just wanted to take you through my process in terms of how we look at the markets. So right now, I'm looking at the CNBC headlines as well as the QQQ and the VXX. We're going to get to that in a second. But I'm looking at the headlines, and the futures are up about 1.5 or 1.6%. So let's take a look at the VIX, the VXX, the VIX tracking stock or ETF. If you look at it, like we said in several earlier videos, we're looking at a daily chart of the VXX, and we can see here in March, April, May, June, July, even August, there was a volatility spike around the center of the month, roughly in the middle of the month. We can see there was a sell signal generated here on this month of September. As we went into the week ending Friday, September 11th, we had some abatement in volatility, but you can still see we hit volatility highs around September 4th. What was that? September 4th, September 3rd. So we can see that there's a pattern here. Let's take a look at the QQQ or NASDAQ. Okay, we can see that it is clearly sold off from these incredible highs. Let's take a look at Amazon, hitting over 3,500, 3,550 something as its all-time high. And it came down to this level below monthly support, the predicted monthly support of 3,184, $3,084 per share. The second level of support for September, monthly S2, is 2917. I don't see any gaps. There is some traffic here in this area. It seems that there is a support level at around 3,100, 3,150, something like that. We're currently up. It looks like the bid and ask is about 3,107, 3,112. So we are a bit, it looks like flat right now. Maybe these bid and asks haven't registered. Let's take a look at Apple. Again, this is a daily chart. We have this gap sitting here down here. Sometimes these gaps don't always fill. This gap is from about 96 bucks a share to about 101, so it's a $5 gap. That was $20 pre-split. There was a 4-to-1 split on Apple, and I believe a 5-to-1 split on Tesla. Let's take a look at Tesla. It's taking a little bit of a beating, but I'm sure this thing will rocket back up when they announce some new stuff. Let's take a look at Lululemon. Again, a sell signal. We're still, in a sell-off period as we go into the fall. Uncertainty with the election. Let's look at the DIA, the diamonds, which is not as relevant. As you can see, this gap that was generated here in actually February 24th, famous birthday of Steve Jobs and my buddy Jose. But this gap was generated by the Dow back then. It already filled the gap. You can see this month's resistance was about in line on the DIA of about 292.70. Let's take a look at the S&P. Here we go. There was a gap here that got filled. If we go back to the QQQ, there was a gap way back here. Obviously, tech stocks have just skyrocketed. Basically, if you look at really what happened, let's take a rectangle. Where's that? We'll take a rectangle. This is sort of a pretty rudimentary test if you don't have a lot of technology at your hands. You take that rectangle, it went all the way down there, and just put it up top. So we just put that rectangle on top, and you can see that it actually hit the top of that price target at about 300, 302. That's the QQQ. Let's take a look at something like Peloton. Peloton has had an incredible run, just like Zoom. Now Zoom has a gap down here, but Zoom is so heavily purchased that we don't know if that gap will be fully filled. It came down as close as 347. The gap is roughly at 325. it may be filled in the future. Let's take a look at Ford. Pretty flat. Let's take a look at MGM. They own half the strip in Las Vegas. Las Vegas Sands. Let's look at LVS. And the WYNN, Las Vegas. Let's take a look at US Steel, X. It's US Steel. Let's take a look at Facebook. It's had an incredible run as well, running up all the way to 303. There's a little bit of a gap right here from 234 up to about 249, so maybe a 15-point gap. It all depends on this election, how people feel going into it, if they want to sell off a portion of their portfolios, if big hedge funds start selling off. Let's take a look at Citibank. Some of the banks still flat. Goldman Sachs, Bank of America. Okay, so you kind of get the picture. The NASDAQ, going back to the QQQ, we can see that that's had an incredible run. It's not only come back to parity, it's gone up an equal amount. So that is an incredible run for the NASDAQ stocks, showing that the future with the virus and everything else is really all about cocooning, people staying at home, Zoom, not going into work, etc. And finally, I'd like to take a look at one of my favorites, which is the Google, coming to you straight from YouTube here. And as you can see, it kind of hit this high up here. It hit monthly resistance of about 1700 and fell right back to support. So we think going into tomorrow, obviously the futures are up. We'll probably gap up, maybe retreat a little bit and recover some of these losses. So that's my analysis for this week. I do think that we should be careful going into the election with the uncertainty, and a lot of the stocks that have gotten hammered have come back. So where's the investment? I have so many friends that come to me that aren't, financially aware, and they say, "Oh, I just put money in Zoom and I just lost the money," and they're in Robinhood and these trading apps on the phone. And I say, "Hey, just look at the technical analysis. If you don't take it from me, take it from someone else. We're looking at predictive technical analysis. So this support levels S1, S2, and S3 were predicted at the end of August 2020. These are the September levels. And we're using just what's called a standard format or a standard computation for support and resistance. We'll go back to the VIX and leave you at that. We can see that, yes, we did fall off, and some of the volatility has fallen off, but as you can see, some of these stocks have also fallen off and have been quite volatile. Okay, that's about it for tonight. Stay safe out there.